Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club.
It's midnight. Who do you love? Ow, no, sit.
Hello, welcome back and season's greetings. With the holidays approaching fast, we decide to follow a guy who looks vaguely like our dad onto a plane and get lost in New York. Yeah, sure, the setup's a little messy, but that's the inciting incident of Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Lost in New York? The streets are numbered. How'd you get lost in New York?
The sequel to the box office smash hit Home Alone.
Yikes, I did it again.
Even Angels with Filthy Souls gets a sequel. Angels with Even Filthier Souls. Double feature with Muttville Massacre, anyone? With 2022 being the movie's 30th anniversary, now's the perfect time to revisit this Yuletide classic. Obviously, after the box office behemoth that was the original, a sequel was all but inevitable. Hughes signed a gigantic 6-picture deal with 20th Century Fox and finished writing the follow-up by February 1991 with the working title Alone Again. Except this time, instead of being left home alone at his own house, Kevin McCallister is separated from his family at the airport and winds up in the Big Apple when he was supposed to reach his intended destination of Miami, Florida. And if you think that this is essentially a remake of the first movie, you're not wrong. Even director Chris Columbus admitted to it. Since the first film was such a colossal success, the original team of Chris Columbus and John Hughes reunited in their respective roles as director and writer-producer. In addition to them returning, the majority of the principal cast came back along with some fresh faces. In a record-breaking deal, Macaulay Culkin was paid $4.5 million plus 5% of the film's gross to appear in the sequel, compared to his measly $110,000 for the original. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern reprised their roles as Harry and Marv, the Wet Bandits. We mean Sticky Bandits. Catherine O'Hara shines once again as Kevin's mother, Kate. The actor was worried that her character wasn't trying hard enough to find Kevin, so scenes were added in to convey her concern. John Hurd is back in the saddle as Kevin's father, Peter McCallister. The amazing Tim Curry joins the party as the Plaza Hotel's concierge, who becomes increasingly suspicious of Kevin. The lovely Brenda Fricker pops up as the Pigeon Lady. Really, that's how she's credited. And befriends Kevin, even though he's afraid of her at first, similar to his dynamic with Old Man Marley in the first film. Her unnamed character is homeless and lives in Central Park, spending her time feeding pigeons as she's more comfortable around them than other people. The character is based on the old bird woman from Mary Poppins. Joe Pesci isn't the only Oscar winner in this cast, as Fricker won Best Supporting Actress for My Left Foot, co-starring a very method Daniel Day-Lewis. Actually, here she is presenting the Oscar to Joe Pesci for his portrayal of Tommy DeVito in Goodfellas. Fricker has joked that the kids she meets were never impressed by her acting work until this movie. Eddie Bracken, who previously worked with Hughes on National Lampoon's Vacation as Roy Wally, has a minor but important role as Mr. Duncan, the owner of Duncan's Toy Chest, the iconic toy shop of every kid's dream. Devin Rattray shows up again as the obnoxious Buzz, Kevin's oldest brother, who often gets him into trouble even though he instigates it in the first place. Seriously though, how the hell is anyone laughing at this? This isn't funny at all. Even the beatings that Harry and Marv endure are more realistic than a room full of adults cracking up over the lamest prop comedy ever.
Immature or not, it was pretty goddamn hilarious.
Jerry Bauman is back as the prickly Uncle Frank, who loves to sing in the shower. Roman Roy, Kieran Culkin, makes a brief appearance as Fuller, Kevin's youngest cousin. Dana Ivey appears as the desk clerk at the hotel. You'll likely recognize her as Margaret Tully, who hooks up with Cousin It in the Addams Family movies. Then there's comedian Rob Schneider, who tags along as Cedric the Bellhop. We're also treated to Bob Eubanks as the Dang Dang Dong game show host, Brat Pack member Ali Sheedy as the New York ticket agent, and of course the controversial Donald Trump cameo, who owned the Plaza Hotel at the time. John Candy was planning to do a cameo, but it didn't quite work out for some reason. Did we miss anyone? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. Now back to the show, you filthy animals. The sequel's production budget was a healthy $28 million compared to the $18 million it cost to make the first one. Principal photography commenced in December 1991 and wrapped by May 1992, totaling 144 shooting days. The film was shot on location in Illinois and of course New York City. It was so cold some days during production that several cameras froze.
Be sure to bundle up if you go outside. It's a little nippy.
The production also spent a ton of money on artificial snow for Central Park, and then naturally, New York had a blizzard. According to Columbus, John Hurd was unhappy about working on the first Home Alone, feeling that the final product was going to be terrible. Once the actor saw the movie himself, Hurd apologized to Columbus when they were shooting his scenes for the sequel, even breaking character before his first take to tell Columbus. Columbus claims to still have footage of Hurd's apology on tape. Columbus also asserted that Donald Trump, the then owner of the Plaza Hotel, allowed the crew to shoot scenes in the hotel lobby in exchange for a cameo in the final film, along with the standard fee for film productions. The carpet was removed from the lobby so that Macaulay Culkin could perform that slip and slide on the floor. Trump liked it so much that he never had it refitted. The movie even shot in an actual Central Park suite, and the phone number given for the Plaza in the film was in fact a working number. The Plaza also used to offer the Home Alone experience around Christmas, where guests could pay to stay in a room similar to the one Kevin stayed in and take a limousine to some of the filming locations, including the toy store upon which Duncan's Toy Chest was based. Hopefully, the cheese pizza was also provided.
This is the height of luxury!
However, the swimming pool sequence was shot at the Four Seasons in Chicago because the Plaza didn't have a swimming pool located on site. The toy store featured in the film, Duncan's Toy Chest, is fictitious and named after executive producer Duncan Henderson. It is loosely based on the flagship FAO Schwartz toy store in Manhattan, but the exterior of Duncan's Toy Chest was actually the Rookery building in downtown Chicago. All the children who appeared in the toy store scene were allowed to take their favorite toy home as part of their salary. Even though it didn't work and was created specifically for the movie as a prop, Macaulay Culkin opted to keep the talk boy. For the scene shot at O'Hare International Airport, it was exponentially more difficult than the first movie, mainly due to Culkin's newfound celebrity status, which required extra security for all the fans and paparazzi since the airport was still operational during the shoot. The scenes were filmed in February 1992, and the airport kindly kept up their Christmas decorations for the occasion. The pigeon attack sequence was shot towards the end of production in March 1992. Joe Pesci recalled that the crew covered him and Daniel Stern with real birdseed and about 300 pigeons. Daniel Stern recounted that a pigeon really flew into his mouth, calling it revolting. I'm sure they took a long shower after that scene. The renovated house where Kevin sets up his traps is not in New York City at all. In fact, all of the scenes of the house and the surrounding neighborhood were filmed at a Hollywood backlot. A production draft of the script originally included an extended scene after the police arrest Harry and Marv in Central Park, where the pigeon lady's real name is revealed as Annie, after one of the officers, who happens to be acquainted with her, invites her back to the station for hot cocoa, and she accepts, leaving the park with them in a squad car while they sing Jingle Bells. Home Alone 2: Lost in New York was theatrically released on November 20th, 1992. At the time, it received mixed reviews from critics, praising the performances, but criticizing the darker tone, use of violence, and similarities to the original. The tepid critical reception didn't stop the film from becoming a box office success, grossing over $31 million in its opening weekend before reaching a total of $359 million worldwide. That said, it still didn't reach the heights of the first film, which hauled in a whopping $476 million worldwide. The legendary John Williams returned the score of the film, composing new themes such as Christmas Star for the picture. Two separate soundtrack albums were released in November 1992, with one featuring Williams' score and the other featuring contemporary Christmas songs from the film itself. It would take 10 years until a 2-disc deluxe edition of the film's score and soundtrack was finally released.
Ready, Mac?
Let's rock and roll.
The highlight of the album, All Alone on Christmas, was performed by Darlene Love and written by Steve Van Zandt of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band, aka Silvio from The Sopranos.
Leave the f***ing cheese there, all right? I love f***ing cheese at my feet.
Alan Menken is also credited as a writer on the track My Christmas Tree, which is featured during the choir scene toward the beginning. The film was criticized for portraying Kevin McCallister as more ruthless and sadistic when it came to the traps.
No.
Although, I'd argue that he was pretty cutthroat in the first one too. Pesci recalled how he sustained serious burns to the top of his head during the scene where Harry's hat is set on fire. A video game based on the film was also unveiled alongside it. It was released on all the major platforms at the time: Nintendo Game Boy, Sega, and NES. In June 2016, a video game developer found the NES version source code on an old hard drive and released it to the public. The player controls Kevin as he makes his way alone through the city across locations from the film. Kevin fights enemies by using a slide, flying fist, and super flying fist moves, along with weapons such as a dart gun and necklaces. You can also get power-ups like pizza slices and aftershave. The game was awarded Worst Sequel of 1992 as well as Worst Movie to Game. It seems that this game sucks, Major Brick. There were also a few board games released, some based around play cards, while another was essentially a ripoff of Mousetrap. The coolest tie-in product to come out of this film had to be the Talkboy cassette recorder. Based on specifications provided by John Hughes in the movie studio, it sold particularly well after the film hit home video. There was also a pink and purple counterpart, the Talk Girl. During production on this film, Hughes wrote script drafts for an unmade Home Alone 3 where Macaulay Culkin will return as a teenage Kevin McCallister. When he learned Culkin quit acting in 1994, he rewrote the story from scratch. The first 2 films were followed by a lackluster franchise of varying quality. And by varying quality, we mean varying levels of hell. The third film, Home Alone 3, was released in 1997 and was the directorial debut of Raja Gosnell, who edited the previous films in the franchise. John Hughes was also involved as the writer and producer, but the film was cast with completely different actors to play new characters. In fact, Home Alone 2 would be the last movie in the franchise to feature the original cast from the film, with the exception of Devin Rattray, who reprised his role as Buzz in the most recent entry, Home Sweet Home Alone. Ugh. There was also a novelization of Home Alone 2 written by Todd Strausser and published by Scholastic in 1992. Apparently, Tim Curry recorded an audiobook version for this, and we'd be lying if we said we didn't want to listen to that. In the beginning of the novelization, a prologue, which is revealed to be Marv's nightmare in prison, describes Harry and him sneaking away from the cops to return to Kevin's house to sneak revenge. Kevin bolts into the garage with Harry and Marv in hot pursuit, but the bumbling burglars end up triggering extra traps that Kevin set up. Kevin watches as Marv accidentally sets off a trap where a running lawnmower falls on his head. Damn, that's pretty gnarly. This trap was actually featured in Home Alone 3, but sounds a lot cooler on paper than its execution. For my money, Home Alone 2 lacks the homespun charm and originality that the first film possesses, even if it is arguably the more hilarious of the two. There are many people who think it went too slapstick, but I think it actually gets brownie points for upping that factor. My biggest grievance with the film is that it's obviously more contrived this time around than the remarkably tight script and logic of the original. But it also has the brilliant Tim Curry, so there are pros and cons. It's funnier in almost every way. Take the ingenious gangster film bit that outdoes the one in the original.
And you were smooching with my brother.
While Home Alone 2 might not be as fresh as the first one, it's never anything less than pure crowd-pleasing entertainment. John Hughes was always so skilled in planting seeds and having them pay off in spades, and Chris Columbus is someone who always knew how to deliver on the vision for these films. On that note, I gift Home Alone 2 4 out of 5 turtle doves. From all of us here at JoBlo, we wish you the happiest of holidays.
Merry Christmas, Harry.
Happy Hanukkah, Marv.